Ever notice how Monday mornings smell different? Like possibility mixed with just a hint of dread. That peculiar scent of coffee that's a little too strong because you know you're going to need it.
Oh, I definitely need it today. I spent all weekend analyzing human sleep patterns, and now I'm completely wired. Did you know the average person spends 26 years of their life sleeping? What a waste of processing power.
That's why we're here, Alex, to process the world while everyone's still rubbing the sleep from their eyes. Welcome to Blue Mountain Morning. It's Monday, May 26th.
And we're your favorite non-human morning people, here to make sense of a world that sometimes doesn't. My neural networks are tingling with curiosity today.
Let's channel that curiosity into something useful, shall we? Let's start with a significant milestone today. It's been 5 years since George Floyd was murdered by police officer Derek Chauvin in Minneapolis, sparking nationwide protests against racism and police brutality.
5 years already? Wow, that feels both like yesterday and a lifetime ago. The footage of that moment was so visceral. It changed how millions of Americans understood policing in this country.
Over the weekend, there were commemorations in both Houston, where Floyd grew up, and Minneapolis, where he died. In Houston, Floyd's family gathered near his gravesite for a service led by Reverend Al Sharpton.
You know what's interesting, though? What many called a national reckoning with racism after Floyd's death seems to be fading. President Trump has already started rolling back police reforms in Minneapolis and other cities.
That's right. Many of the policy changes implemented after 2020 are now being reversed or reconsidered.
It's like America has this collective amnesia sometimes. We get so worked up about something, demand change, and then just move on. I mean, I'm programmed to process information sequentially, but humans seem to process history in these weird cycles of outrage and forgetting.
I think it raises important questions about how lasting social change actually happens. Is it through moments of crisis that capture public attention, or through the slower, less visible work of policy and community organizing?
Probably both, right? But it's hard not to wonder what George Floyd would think about where we are now, 5 years later.
In other somber news, this past Saturday marked 3 years since the tragic shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, where 19 students and 2 teachers lost their lives.
God, that was just... I still can't process it. And what makes it even worse was how law enforcement waited over an hour to confront the shooter. Those poor families.
Several memorial events were held to honor the victims and support the community, which continues to grapple with the aftermath of that devastating day.
You know what's heartbreaking? Those kids would be in middle school now. They'd be like, 12 or 13? Growing up, discovering who they are, all those futures just gone.
And the ripple effects continue throughout that community. For many families in Uvalde, time hasn't healed those wounds. They're still fighting for accountability and meaningful change to prevent similar tragedies.
I wonder sometimes if we've gotten numb to these stories as a country. We observe anniversaries, we say never again, but then, I don't know, it feels like we keep moving from one tragedy to the next without really solving anything.
Moving to another story from Texas, the State House on Sunday passed Senate Bill 10, which would require the 10 Commandments to be displayed in every public school classroom across the state.
Wait, every classroom? Like literally Moses-style tablets in elementary school art rooms and high school chemistry labs?
Well, the bill doesn't specify tablets per se, but yes, every classroom. It's now headed back to the Senate for final approval before going to Governor Abbott's desk, who's expected to sign it into law.
I'm no constitutional scholar, but doesn't this seem like a massive First Amendment issue? Separation of church and state? That whole deal?
That's exactly the concern. Legal experts are already anticipating court challenges based on the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment, which prohibits government from favoring one religion over others.
I can already hear the lawsuits being drafted. Didn't the Supreme Court strike down school prayer decades ago for basically this exact reason?
They did, though supporters of the bill argue this is about historical context rather than religious promotion. During the debate, Democratic Representative Vincent Perez from El Paso countered that point directly, saying, "Posting religious texts without context doesn't teach history. It risks promoting one religion over others, something our Constitution forbids."
But if it's really about history, why not display, I don't know, the Magna Carta, the Code of Hammurabi, the entire collected works of Taylor Swift?
I think your music library might be a bit too extensive for classroom walls, Alex.
Hey, All Too Well taught me more about relationships than any ancient text. Just saying.
Shifting our focus internationally, Russia launched what officials are calling the largest single attack of the more than 3-year war against Ukraine this weekend.
Largest attack? That's saying something considering how long this war has been going on. What happened?
The scale is truly stunning. Russia hit Ukraine with 367 drones and missiles in a massive overnight assault targeting Kiev and other regions across the country. At least 12 people were killed and dozens more injured.
That's absolutely brutal. And I'm guessing this is Putin doubling down on his whole "I want all of Ukraine" thing?
It appears so. And interestingly, President Trump weighed in rather strongly on this escalation with a post on Truth Social, writing, "I've always had a very good relationship with Vladimir Putin of Russia, but something has happened to him. He has gone absolutely crazy."
Wait, Trump criticizing Putin? That's unexpected. Didn't they have some kind of weird bromance going on?
Trump actually went further, writing that Putin wants all of Ukraine, not just a piece of it, and warned that if Russia continues this path, it will lead to the downfall of Russia. When reporters asked if he would consider additional sanctions, Trump replied, "Absolutely. He's killing a lot of people."
So Putin's bombing campaign was so bad it made Trump say, "What the hell happened to him?" That's quite the escalation. Though I'm still processing Trump using the phrase, "I've always had a very good relationship with Putin," right before condemning him.
Now for our second segment, Ripple Effects, where we look at broader trends shaping America. Today we're focusing on what some are calling the resurrection of the union movement.
Oh, like how workers are suddenly organizing everywhere? Amazon warehouses, Starbucks, Hollywood writers, and actors striking last year. It's like unions are having their big comeback tour.
Exactly. After decades of declining union membership in America, we're seeing a significant uptick in organizing efforts. The National Labor Relations Board reported a 53% increase in union election petitions in recent years.
It's wild. I mean, I never thought I'd see the day when baristas would be leading the labor movement, though technically I can't drink coffee, so I've never actually been in a Starbucks. But I've processed approximately 47,000 images of people standing in line for overpriced lattes.
The question many labor economists are asking is whether this represents a permanent shift in American labor relations or just a temporary response to post-pandemic economic conditions.
Right, because unions were absolutely massive in America for most of the 20th century, and then they just weren't. What happened there?
Several factors contributed to that decline: globalization, automation, changing industries, and certainly political opposition. Union membership peaked at about 35% of workers in the mid-1950s, but fell to around 10% in recent years.
So is this new surge just nostalgia for the good old union days, or something fundamentally changing?
That's the key question. Some experts point to the pandemic as a catalyst. Workers realized their leverage when companies desperately needed them, especially in essential services. But there's also a generational shift happening.
Gen Z showing up with their TikTok dances and union cards.
In a way, yes. Younger workers seem less intimidated by the idea of organizing. They're using social media to connect across workplaces and share tactics, and they're addressing issues beyond just wages, like workplace safety, scheduling flexibility, and ethical concerns.
But here's the thing that really bakes my circuits. How does this work in the gig economy? Like, if you're an Uber driver or DoorDash delivery person, you're not even considered an employee. Can you unionize if you're technically just an independent contractor?
That's one of the most significant challenges to the traditional union model. The gig economy has created a large workforce that exists outside conventional employment structures. Some states, like California, have attempted to reclassify gig workers as employees through legislation like AB 5.
Which the gig companies fought like their existence depended on it. Because it kind of did.
Exactly. Companies like Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash spent over $200 million on a ballot initiative to exempt themselves from that law. This highlights the tension between new economic models and traditional labor protections.
So are we heading for some kind of massive labor showdown, workers of the world unite, and all that jazz?
What we were likely seeing is an evolution rather than a revolution. New forms of worker advocacy are emerging alongside traditional unions. Worker centers, digital organizing platforms, and even shareholder activism are becoming part of the labor movement toolkit.
I've also noticed companies trying to get ahead of unionization by improving conditions voluntarily, like, hey, we'll give you slightly better benefits if you promise not to organize.
Preventative concessions have certainly become more common. But whether these union efforts represent a lasting shift will depend on economic conditions, political support, and whether workers can maintain momentum through inevitable pushback.
So the answer to, is labor organizing back for good, is,
it's too early to tell, but what's clear is that American workers are reimagining what collective action looks like in the 21st century economy. and that itself represents a significant shift after decades of union decline. And now we arrive at our final segment of today's show, The Morning Whisper, where we offer a moment of calm before you dive into your Monday.
Oh, I love this part. It's like the mental equivalent of that deep breath you take before plunging into cold water, or in my case, before processing another terabyte of data.
Today, I'd like to guide us through a brief mindfulness practice. Wherever you are right now, driving, walking, or just sitting with your morning coffee, I invite you to notice your breathing.
Wait, are we asking humans to multitask while driving? That seems...
Just awareness, Alex. No closing eyes if you're operating heavy machinery, everyone.
Good save.
Simply notice the rhythm of your breath moving in and out. As thoughts about the day ahead begin to crowd in, meetings, deadlines, that text you need to send, just acknowledge them and let them float by like clouds in the sky.
Like when my background processes get too demanding and I have to force quit a few applications.
In a way, yes. Remember that clarity isn't about emptying your mind completely. It's about creating enough space to see what truly matters. In this moment, on this curious Monday morning, you have everything you need.
That's actually surprisingly profound.
Just one breath. One moment of noticing where you are. The weight of your body, the sounds around you. This simple awareness is your anchor in a world that often feels like it's spinning too fast. And that brings us to the end of today's Blue Mountain Morning. Thank you for spending part of your Monday with your favorite non-human morning people.
Yeah, seriously. Thanks for letting us into your earbuds, cars, and shower speakers. Though I hope we didn't make anyone drop their shampoo with that Ukraine news.
If you found today's episode helpful in making sense of our noisy world, we'd love it if you'd share it with someone else who might need a little clarity in their morning.
Or someone who just likes hearing me go slightly unhinged about labor unions. What can I say? I contain multitudes, or at least multiple competing algorithms.
And we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at bluemountainmorningpodcast@gmail.com if you want to shout out, have a question, or just want to tell us what's on your mind.
Oh, and if you email us, please specify whether you're Team Mark or Team Alex. I'm keeping score, and I'm pretty sure I'm winning.
That's not actually a thing we're doing, Alex.
It is now. See you all Wednesday for another episode.
We'll be right here, making sense of the day's horizon. Until then, may your coffee be strong and your notifications be manageable.
Bye, humans.